Greetings, everyone. My name is Matt Adams. I'm the current president of the Visual Arts Alliance. VAA was founded in 1981 as an all-volunteer arts nonprofit organization seeking to provide education and exhibition opportunities to Houston area artists and collectors. We do this through a number of activities, including social activities, critiques, educational programs, and in particular today, professionally juried exhibits. What we're going to be doing today is talking to our juror about his selections on our 37th Juried Open Exhibition. So if you're keeping up with the organization, you know that this is the 83rd exhibit that we have produced since 1981. It's a very exciting time that we live in right now, this lockdown, this so-called Corona world, and that this is now our third exhibit that we have produced using normal procedures on the back end, except the actual presentation of the works is online, is a virtual environment that you walk through with your keyboard when you're at home on your computer or your iPad. So it's a very different experience for us, but it's just in the presentation of the work. But we did an international call for entries, as we normally do. And Dr. Harry Cooper's name, I think, had a lot to do with this being the largest number of artists and artworks we have ever received for an open exhibition. We have 4 countries represented in our call for entries. We have 3 represented in the exhibition, and 16 states of the United States are represented in the submissions. So this was a lot of work. It was 197 artists. So Harry Cooper got to look at a lot of work, and you know, we'll hear more from him. So for us, it's exciting to keep creativity going in these trying times. We do have other activities. So if you're not already following us on Facebook or subscribe to our newsletter on our website, please do. Everything we do is free and open to the public. And with it being an all-volunteer organization, I like to think it has a lot of heart, and everyone is welcome. Absolutely everyone is welcome, whether you're creating art or you're consuming art as a collector. If you're just an innocent bystander, please follow us. There is a lot that we have going on. So we're gonna dovetail into the meat of this presentation. So Dr. Cooper is going to talk about some of the selected works. We'll just see how we do with that. And at the end of this, I want to direct some content specifically to artists regarding entering juried exhibits. I wouldn't mind showing you some images from the exhibit, how you should better tailor your entry into these things. But I'm going to save that for the very end of the, after Dr. Cooper talks about his presentation. His selections, I'm sorry. So I think that's enough for me. Normally I would ask for questions, but I'll have to wait to do that in person with you sometime soon, I hope. So with that said, I would like to introduce Dr. Harry Cooper, the Senior Curator and the Head of Modern Art at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., to introduce yourself, and I'll bring up the pictures when you would like. Greetings.
Great. Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here, coming to you from Washington, hot and humid Washington. I guess you know about that in Houston too. And I've been here a little over a dozen years. And before that, I was in a similar role at the Fog Art Museum at Harvard University, where I also got my Ph.D. With a dissertation on the art of Piet Mondrian. Abstraction is familiar to me very much, but I also did art myself, figurative work from observation, still life and figure at the Corcoran. Took classes there before I went into art history. So that's been important, I think. And I hope I have some insight and empathy into what it's like to be an artist. Without artists, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing. It's all about you. And so this was an honor and responsibility to put on the black robe and the gavel and be the judge. And that's probably enough about me. I'd be happy to plunge into the images.
Absolutely. So I'll bring that up here. And does that look good to you?
That looks great. So Matt and I had decided that we would just look through all the images that I selected. And I'm saying images because unfortunately that's all they are to me. And that's a big caveat. You know, artworks are objects, and I was just looking at a screen, and we're all just looking at screen. It's the only way we can do it under these conditions. So with that said, I selected the works that really made an impression on me. Starting with this one, I think they're just going in a random order here, which appealed to me partly because I think it's a shaped work. It's a silhouette. It's the motif is the shape of the support. I mean, that's something that, you know, it's not new. Kind of cutouts that think of Tom Wesselman, Alex Katz, or even before that. But I thought it was well done here with humor and a kind of wacky surrealist idea about women's legs and tuna fish cans, and done it in a style that's a little funky, a little bit kind of rough, and that gave it a nice humor, I thought, as well.
Next.
Okay, and I hope, Matt, if you want to jump in at any point, and
you are correct, that is
please do.
That is a cutout.
Okay, and again, it can be hard to tell, but I could tell from the shadows around that work that it was a silhouette work. And this artist just did amazing things with toothpicks. There's a real elegance, cleverness to just being able to do so much with such a simple material. And there were a couple of these, and again, it's sculptural, so it's a little hard to get a full idea of it. But even so, I just thought this was beautiful, a beautiful, almost like a kind of natural structure that you might find in a sea urchin or something like that.
And I think it might be important to point out that you're reading these as toothpicks, and the data you were provided was not the artist's name. This was blind juried, but you were provided with a medium that the artist provided, because a lot of people don't realize how these things happen. So with your eyes, you could wonder if it's toothpicks, but then the data that you're provided by the organization reinforces that. I just want to make sure everyone is clear on that.
Okay. This, I believe, is a pretty small painting, and this artist is one of the ones I chose for a top prize. It really stood out for me, there, as I said in my juror statement, I think simplicity goes a long way with me anyway. When there are few elements, each element becomes very important. There's a lot at stake with each element, and the way this was judged by the artist, the way those shapes and lines move along the edge or go into the interior of the space or float freely, and how things are lined up or not quite lined up. All of that just provided me with a lot to look at. And yes, I did mention Mondrian earlier, the master of of primary colors and horizontal and vertical lines. You know, no doubt I'm somewhat favoring work that resonates in that way. Same artist. In some cases, I chose a couple of works by the same artist. And I like the fact that this was such a different work. I think this one, maybe I'm remembering from the title that it was derived from observation from some patterns, I think on a sign or in a ballpark or something. So that's, you know, as with the first one, there's some kind of reference, some kind of stimulus in the world of observation, but then it again becomes conformed to the rectangle. I think it's a slightly off square, slightly vertical here. And, you know, really just 3 or 4 elements. I thought the choice of colors, particularly that bright green at the top, really sang out and just gave me a kind of a joyful feeling to look at that. So this stood out as well. You know, it's a little bit mysterious. It's hard to get an idea of some of these works from the photograph, but what I liked about it was not so much what the words were saying. I didn't pay that much attention to that. And in fact, the words sort of become a texture and we're somewhat aware of the meaning, but it's an all over pattern with some great rhythm and complex layering and crisscrossing of different kinds of marks, different weights, different sizes. I thought it made a kind of concrete poem that was very effective. What we are doing.
A comment on line quality?
Yeah, I like the line quality. I don't know if it's, I can't remember the medium line, if it is actually chalk of some kind or just the appearance of that, but it had a very, very direct feel. And I think with words, it's nice that words can bring you in, especially if they're not easy to read. You know, then that's almost a technique of drawing in the viewer and getting us involved in the work.
And that's a whole conversation right there.
Speaking of words, this is really at the other end of that spectrum. It couldn't be clearer. You know, I feel so much better now. This reminded me a bit of an artist like Ed Ruscha, you know, that juxtaposition of some very clear colloquial language on top of a landscape. In some cases, a kind of I think this was a photographic landscape. And the two things may or may not go together. And that's kind of the beauty of it, I think, you know. There's mystery, you know, why do I feel so much better? How did I feel before, you know?
Maybe
and is that ocean, pardon?
Maybe he got dried off from swimming in the ocean.
Yeah, who knows? But, and the very limited palette, which I thought was effective here too. So there were a number of drawings that were submitted, all kinds of media. And, you know, I guess speaking of mystery, this one really captured me. It was easy to get into, all the detail, beautifully rendered. But what is it? Where are we? What scale is it? What happened to that building? Some kind of overgrown ruin, some kind of ritual feeling. I just, I thought it was compelling. And this one, along the same lines of a strange monuments emerging from a landscape, but a totally different treatment, obviously. Here with flat color and very graphic. But what are those things, you know? I've never seen anything like it.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this, I'm not sure what the scale is. It would be probably nice to see it bigger, but of the quite a few photorealist paintings that were submitted, several stood out for me, and this one in particular, I just thought was beautifully done. Skillful, of course, but you know, it takes more than skill to pull off a photorealist painting, I think. And I'm thinking especially of composition. Sometimes the compositions are just kind of random. It's a snapshot. Here is very well composed with those paws reaching out to us, drawing us into the image. This is a woodcut, I believe, and in a kind of fairly traditional style, thinking of artists like Posada, a kind of populist woodcut that is, you know, making a making a populist or a political point. I'm not sure, but I thought the vocabulary was really being used well here, and I love that cow who is looking out at us, back at us, while the other ones are chewing or whatever they're doing. Beautiful textures of the woodcut there. Culturizando, is that right? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know what that means, but that wasn't that important. It just I'd like to know more, but I thought it was effective. Not too many abstract works, and this is one of them, which it's more complicated than the previous abstraction we looked at. Certainly, these illusions of folding, and then of lighting, so that the same stripes appear in shade and light. Illusions of transparency. Just a demonstration of a lot of effects that. But it was more than that. It came together in this sort of satisfying fan-like, complicated topography.
Nice.
I believe this is one of the prize winners for me as well, and a very skillful, solid rendering of this beautiful face with a lot of detail, not fussy, you know, fairly broad marks, but you know, the way the glossiness of the eyes is captured, for example, is impressive. I also like the use of color, you know, and sometimes it's easy to forget about color when you're going for volume and convincing illusion, but the yellow of the shirt, and then the I thought a great touch was the blue wire coming down from the earbud there, and then some indication of a location under a highway. I think that's important, you know, because that suggests something about the subject, you know, urban, certainly. A little bit of a tattoo showing of the neckline. Just hints about stories that we might be able to tell about this person. So, you know, this work, I thought, again, had a kind of iconic simplicity to it. And I would love to see this in person, of course. And again, a certain amount of abstraction. Yes, it's a dress, but it's presented as a couple of shapes floating in the air on that kind of very industrial stand. Interesting to see the yellow mark on the floor. It looks like it gives it it's a very elegant work presented in a sort of rough setting.
I got to see this in person and talk to Angela about this a few days ago, and it's all metal. It's all metal, and it's a statement about how women are supposed to, you know, look so, you know, look good, even if they're made uncomfortable. So the bodice is steel. I mean, all of this is metal. This is all metal. It's metal screen on the bottom with, it's not laser cut steel, but they're all hand cut flowers, and the bodice is all hand cut steel. It is a very much, is a very different experience in person. I will tell you that. Beautiful.
And I am not remembering the medium line, but I guess I would have known that. But that really, I think it goes along with what I was saying about this kind of elegance, but a hardness, roughness to the work as well.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, you did.
Well, she nailed it.
Yeah.
This work I liked a lot, and beautiful drawing, obviously, especially of the foot, for example. Almost has like a early Andy Warhol feeling to that drawing. And then the way that the head pops because it's been treated so differently, and I can't remember the materials, but it's almost like a layered veneers of paint or wood that create a relief.
Paper.
It's layered paper, cut paper to create that relief and those highlights.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. And you know, you were talking about presentation. This has been photographed under glass, so we get some reflections. You know, that's not ideal, but I could see through that to a very strong work. Okay, you know, I'm so glad there are painters out there who are still working, I guess I could say, in a fairly abstract, painterly, colorful way, you know, that harks back all the way to probably the 1950s. It's very well done, and there's figurative suggestions, I think, these two forms that seem to be interacting, and you know, but for all everything going on, there's still as you know, there's still enough order and simplicity. It's this repetition of these oblong shapes really that build the whole thing, and color and texture. They're all kind of, everything feels in control, you know, in a kind of painting that can easily get out of control, I think. This one, a very, very different kind of abstraction in quotes because you get the feeling of an aerial view of maybe a looking down at a development. You know, those developments, those suburban developments that, you know, many of us have lived in at one time or another, with the cul-de-sac and everything, and, you know, they can be depressing, I think, but sort of anonymous. But the artist has found a pattern in that is almost like a set of nerves or something, beautiful tissue-like pattern with the color and the layers that I thought was lovely. And whether it's a comment on something or not, again, I don't know, you know, but so this did seem to me to be a comment. And the artist had some other ceramics that had been, I guess, intentionally broken and sewn together in this case. That just felt powerful to me, this kind of wound in this beautiful vessel that's then being mended imperfectly. And it has a sort of bodily suggestion. The vessel always suggests a body, so something's happened to this beautiful body, and that is still beautiful. I like this work a lot as well, and I think I picked a couple of works by this artist. So again, it'd be nice to see it in person. Yeah, there's the other one. I think that one I gave a prize to. But in both cases, the artist is taking some found materials. In this case looks like, you know, stuff around the studio even. A chain, a boxing glove, plaster, bits of, you know, maybe stretcher material, wooden slats, and putting it together in this. There's a lot of violence suggested here, a lot of energy. It's rough. It's you know, but there's a beauty in that too. If you think of like Cy Twombly sculptures, his use of white plaster, or Rauschenberg comes to mind. The other one, Matt, if you want to go to the other one, was more controlled and a little more memorable for me, I guess. Again, looking through so many images, I kind of, you know, fixed on the ones that were maybe a little more iconic and memorable. In this case, it looks like a hubcap, beaten up hubcap suspended from a basketball backboard. The title had to do with hits and misses, I think.
I'm starting to get a sense that emotional impact is something that is on the forefront of your mind as you look at artworks.
That's really, I'm glad to hear that, because I've been accused of being a real formalist without much of a heart, or not as interested in content. I think this has both, you know, as a formal composition. It's very strong. Reminded me a little of Philip Guston, the kind of mark making and simple shapes in his late work. But it also was obviously suggests things about urban experience, maybe Black experience. I think of David Hammond's, what he's done with basketball, the theme of basketball hoops. But you know, it could be an experience of anyone that might be around urban life, discarded hubcaps, and you know, backlots and basketball courts.
And I like that you mentioned Cy Twombly on the other one, because I believe this is a Houston-based artist. And you know, here in Houston, we have the Cy Twombly, the permanent museum of Cy Twombly,
right?
You know, as part of the Manil collection campus. So it'd be interesting to ask this artist, if that indeed was a point of inspiration on that piece.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now for something completely different, you know, a beautiful little, I think probably little, fairly neoclassical marble with some abstraction and some generalization, and that I thought was what really made it interesting. The simplification into this very energetic form. You sort of feel the dynamism in the body there, even though it's been truncated in, you know, in the way of almost like a classical fragment of a sculpture. I like this one a lot, and I think I like some of the looser work that I saw in terms of painting and this and drawing. This was one of them. I think this was done on a shower curtain, if I remember, or something like that.
I don't remember.
It was an interesting support, an untraditional support, and it just, I thought it was great drawing, great feeling for a city. Clouds, and then the clouds sort of turn into blank spots and interruptions, and it becomes, you get kind of lost in it, and like that a lot. So this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a photograph.
Yes.
Yeah, and there were some straight photographs submitted, and not too many. And this one I just found very beautiful in this limited palette. I guess I'm partial to that. Textures, certainly a mystery here. This beautiful ruin. I think the contrast of the rotting wooden beams with the plaster, and the capitals, ornate capitals, and then that little bit of graffiti on the left, just, you know, and maybe a fountain straight down the middle. I wonder how big this is. I think this would be very effective at a large scale where you could feel like you might walk into it.
Mm.
Do you have the dimensions for that?
Not right in front of me. So we'll
Okay.
just tell people they need to see the exhibit.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So this, again, it looks like it's on a shaped support, and I thought it was, you know, again, there's some beautiful sort of translucent handling of the materials, abstract, but maybe suggesting a pair of hands or some kind of gesture. Yeah, very lyrical, musical kind of thing. So this painting, very ambitious painting. With a very interesting perspective. I think possibly this could be like a 3-point perspective, if not more. Lots of vanishing points, kind of a spherical space that we look into this figure in a hospital bed, connected to kind of a dreamscape with these other figures holding these ribbon-like, it's like a fire hose or something. Light, great use of light, just really successful, ambitious painting. You know, might not want to try this at home. It's hard.
I believe this was a Corona-related title, so maybe that is toilet paper that those figures are holding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you're calling it ambitious. It's very ambitious.
Right. yeah, these nests, I really like these nests, if that's what they are, or these networks of marks. A lot of interesting space here to untangle or not to untangle. Again, limited palette and almost different levels of resolution, you know, sharper and fuzzier. Yeah. This was a lot of fun for me. I love music, love jazz. Has a feeling of maybe New Orleans, second line, you know, parade. I like, almost like an Edvard Munch painting. There's a sense that all these figures are part of one kind of motion, like one wave-like motion that's going through the whole thing that, you know, gets expressed as music, that implication of music. Yeah. So this is I imagine a small work. I can't recall the material, but this is just, you know, the definition of elegance. Even right down to that black polished base. Interesting sort of essay in balance, you know, how it holds together, how those elements are kind of poised together.
Do you read these as figures? Would you consider this a figurative piece?
I didn't see it that way. Okay. Do you see it that way?
Because you've seen figures in other pieces. There was a very abstracted, and you mentioned two figures. It seemed like two figures interacting. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if this was, in your mind, similar. So that's interesting that it is not. Okay.
Yeah, but now that you mention it, I mean, whether it's figures or arms or something, I could certainly see suggestions of that. Yeah, this one stood out for me. I think because of the unusual materials, you know, there's on the one hand a sense of just a simple drawing on a chalkboard almost, and then those great birds on the telephone wire popping out. And you know, I'm just looking at it now. I'm only just now noticing the other birds, you know, and the different wires back in the background, which I had missed the first time around. You know, and it's a very nice drawing. It's strong drawing, just in a traditional way, but very untraditional kind of materials. So this was help me out here, but again, I think this is a shaped work.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and a
third one.
Huh?
It's the third one.
Third one.
Or fourth. Yeah.
Third or fourth. I mean, I think that's always an interesting way to go, as long as it, you know, makes sense with what's inside the shape. And I think it does here as well, because it's like a jigsaw puzzle shape, and there's a lot of elements fitting together there in this very nicely painted, painted work that could be a photograph, or derived from a photograph. But I like the way some of the lines, you know, of perspective, they kind of carry through into the overall shape, and that shape, in a way, that's what really makes it interesting for me, is the outside shape. Wow. Okay, this is a big one. Filling the screen just because of the shape happens to be the right kind of horizontal shape to fill the screen. This I read as an abstraction and very vibrant, energetic abstraction that with this sort of spinning motion from that central blue sort of three-part figure spinning out. And I think the use of gray is really good because you don't want to just have a lot of hot colors because then there's no relief. And I think the use of gray and white were very important here to set off some of the colored elements. Looks like maybe collage paper with drawn line. I can't remember, but whatever it is, I liked it. And I like the gray the top left where it gets spattery, just different techniques. Some calligraphy, it looks like too, some, yeah. Next. You can help me out anytime, Matt.
Yeah, and I would if I could. Yeah. I don't have the list in front of me, and right. I think that can inform. I think it's informative to say, I don't know what the media is. I don't care what it is, but I like right. the effect that it leaves.
Yeah,
I think there's. Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Mm-hmm. And this is a photograph, as I recall.
Yes.
And I like people who really push the limits with photography, and in this case, catching that car speeding by, it almost dematerializes into the landscape, into the horizontals, and then that nice element of the green arrow pointing, in the direction like, yes, that car is making that left turn. Very familiar, Gold's Gym. I mean, we could see this anywhere, but we never see it. We don't see it because we don't often use our camera or our eyes in that way. And the wheels just go away entirely, which is kind of neat. I don't know how the artist managed that. So it becomes just a streaking kind of craft.
Are you a Star Wars fan? Does that look like Luke's landscape?
My son is. I did experience a lot of Star Wars at one point. Yeah, could be a lightsaber just.
That's a
land. Or a what are the speeders? Yeah, the speeders. Thank you. And this felt very powerful to me, and the colors are bright, but the mood is quite somber, I think, with the shadowed eyes and the figures sort of relying on each other, leaning on each other. Painted in a fairly simple way, remind me of, say, a painter like Bob Thompson, kind of simplifying the figure and bringing out expressive color and gesture. Very nice. Another photograph, I guess, must be of looking at this. I just love the fact that we're not sure what we're looking at. We're looking straight down into a candle or a light bulb. Is it a sort of long exposure where we're seeing motion, probably? And wow, it's just I tend to like the sun, and I'm a kind of a sun person. I don't know, a sun sign, I guess, Cancer. Yeah, not that I'm into astrology, but I like the heat of this work, and the fact that it's in this puddle of darkness. It's very effective. Yeah, beautiful, poetic, simple landscape with some gold leaf or gold foil up there. I think that's really judged. The blue is judged very well against that. It's kind of matte blue. And yeah, I could see this. I could see this being a great prompt for a poem. Has a beautiful, simple feeling. And this work, again, there's text, which is not easy to make out, but once you see it, you know, we are manipulated, violated, ignored, suppressed, enslaved, and that connects with these bound figures. And yet it's very pretty. It's very pretty. And there's a sense of, even though there's a gun there, I just like the sort of tensions in here between some pain in the language and in the figures, but also real nice sense of a beautiful order to it. So this, as I recall, I think this was made with some smoke, and it was a smoked drawing, smoked and torn, and you know how the artist achieved that beautiful silhouette of the face. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter maybe. And the tear is such a important element there, I think, with all the softness going on and that tear. And then I guess what's I see now is a bird with a beak in the right. But for me, it's the materials and the gestures, that really captured me. I guess it's a small painting. And you know, everybody likes to look at a rainbow. This is not exactly rainbow, but it's some kind of spectrum of color that is really, it's just intense. It's intense the way the colors bleed into each other, and you could think of what, you know, Morris Louis was able to do with color, with bands of color. Yeah. This one, yeah, makes me smile. I think it's a painting with relief, and I'm trying to remember what the elements were that made up the hair, but I know there were some found elements there to create the dew, and the shirt itself has some relief to it, and it just pops out. It just pops out at you, even in this flat image. Nice positive image. We need positive images, you know, these days. Can't make out the button exactly. I don't know if you can, Matt.
No, I remember she submitted some detail photos. So the white things in the dew have words on them. So there's certainly a lot of meaning in this.
Yeah, yeah. And a great portrait, you know, really, really sense of a character. This I thought was very, very inventive on, you know, not unlike the toothpick work, in that, you know, the artist, I think, is just using paper, just folded, accordion folded paper to create this wonderful playground kind of ladders, and I just it's really nice fantasy construction.
Yeah, is it craft? Is it art? I think it definitely is in the intersection of art and craft.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So very, very happy to see that represented here.
you know, I had said I didn't think there was a lot of abstraction, but you know, there's a lot of artists who are working in, maybe because of what I picked, who were working in and around abstraction. Certainly, I mean, there's a sense of landscape here, I think, and maybe some dynamic figures, but I just love the combination of the what looks like ink line with fairly translucent washes of color, almost like what you could do digitally, say, you know, these days with an iPad, but it feels more real than that. And again, another one of the photographs I chose. Again, it has a lot of mystery to it, a lot of beauty, a lot of contrast in the materials that are represented. And you know, where is it? What's going on? There's a photograph within the photograph going on. Picture being taken on the right. If we had the title, that might help us. I don't remember it, but I thought, again, I think this would work well on a big scale too.
Now, this is our Norway entry. This is an expat recently relocated to Norway. Mm-hmm. So it's almost a view through her eyes.
You know, I think I am partial to nests and knots and tangles, and this is certainly that. Limited palette, again, I think I generally find to be a good idea. You know, unless you really know what you're doing with the color. That may be because I never really figured out color myself when I was doing art. But I love this the way this emerges from the ground and then sort of drips back into the ground. Think a bit of the artist J. DeFeo, the West Coast painter and sculptor who did a lot with whites and grays. Very nice. So this was one of our more traditional sculptors. I assume it's bronze or maybe in the clay stage painted or plaster painted to look like bronze, but
it's plaster, yeah.
It's plaster, yeah. But you know, you get two for the price of one here. You get a double portrait, the human head, and then the bear, I guess, which I mean, remind me a little bit of what the myth of Odysseus and the lion's skin, but it has a sense of myth about it and ancientness and ruin, but also very contemporary in the touch, you know, kind of impressionist sculptural touch. It's very nice. Yeah, I liked this painter a lot. This painter violated my rules about limited palette. You know, it's using every color in the book here, but there's an order to it. You know, there's that blue focus in the middle. There's also a lot of humor, I think, in the way that a lot of sort of humorous energy in the way the paint is applied, and sense of this crazy landscape, maybe with some figures, I think like Cecily Brown, who's a painter who might have done something like this. And this I felt to be a beautiful abstraction. I think here, again, the photograph is probably not sharp enough. So I think there's, some of it feels a little blurred, but I could still get a sense that there was a whole variety of textures here, sort of nature inspired, garden inspired maybe. again, I think the use of white is important, whites and grays to, and blacks to offset the beautiful color. So I'm remembering that this is another photograph, I think. Sometimes hard to tell with these very skillful painters, but I think this is a photograph that I liked of, I don't know what's in the air, but you know, some of these photographs of ruined and you know, tangled places, the barbed wire, the cart, and you know, was this set up? Was it found? I don't really think it matters to me. It's a strong image, and that blocked in doorway kind of says a lot, I think, too. And the reflectiveness, the water on the ground. Something bad has happened here, but you know, there's a lot of beauty in it. Okay, this I again would be nice to see in person, but I'm remembering it's either ceramic or paper mache possibly, but it looks like ceramic. And you know, I'm seeing it now as a bee and a hive. That didn't really strike me before. But I like that. I was reading a little more abstractly, I think. But there's great, I just want to touch it, you know, there's a lovely sort of kind of shape, texture, kind of unity here. And you want to go inside, get inside that hive. So this painting, I'm not sure what it's on. It almost looks like it could have been on mylar or something slippery. There's just a lot sliding and slipping around here. You know, probably as close as we get to an abstract expressionist painting in the show. And yet there's the, what looks like calligraphy coming over it in blue and black in different directions. Yeah, I think it's very successful. So this has even more explicitly Asian feel to it, more traditional, certainly very traditional, even with the, what looks like the collector's stamp in red there that you often see in Chinese or Japanese or Korean paintings. And, you know, I think, honestly, I was a little bit ready to pass on this because it's such a traditional kind of sentimental theme of the winding path, the waterfalls, the little huts in the background. But it was done in a way that felt contemporary. Use of the materials, quite free and yet controlled.
I like that even you are challenged with some artworks.
Sometimes, you know, there's a conflict and you gotta go one way or the other. Yeah, I like this snake a lot. This very clever. So this is the snake that jumped out of the box, right? There's that box, the green box on the right, which you see the little tie that would tie it together. And I imagine that whole snake of folded papers can be put back in that box. And I like that a lot. So this one, I think it's a pretty small painting. We're pretty close up to it. You can tell from the canvas weave there in the white. And it's really in your face. I mean, big forms on a small painting with big contrast, very urban feeling for me, and lots of nice texture use. I guess there's collage here. It looks like canvas parts were cut out and then applied. So working the painting that way, I think is a great idea. Maybe some torn paper too. Looks like this. I mean, this is really doing this kind of connoisseurship and a Zoom on with a PDF is always a challenge.
You really fascinated me in using the word urban with this composition, because we've seen I'm keeping count on that. This is the 5th one that's had an urban feel to it. The other 4, for me, I could immediately see an urbanness about, but this one I didn't. So I'm really fascinated that you're seeing that. So you're challenging me on that. That's
great.
Really
and now I'm thinking again about it, but think about like I guess maybe taxis and that kind of some of the colors and patterns. And an artist like Al Held, who did his early work, looking a little bit like this. Throwing out these artists in case the artist maybe wants to not to say it's an influence, but maybe the artist wants to explore some art history. This it was so different, from everything else, and jaunty little drawing, which looks like it was cut out and done on lined paper, but also, some feeling of Picasso in there, some Cubism, some Guernica, there's something very vital and about it, expressive about it. So this painting was very, very accomplished. Again, not unlike the painting of the portrait of the black figure under the overpass. I like the angle. It looks like you're seeing the artist's hand in the foreground, and then maybe the image in the mirror that he's painting. So self-portrait feeling, that gaze, looking, maybe it's a tilted mirror, looking kind of down at himself, and Chinati. So, the Texas theme there, Marfa, right? Donald Judd.
It is not that this has,
huh?
It is a Houston artist, and it is a self-portrait.
Okay. It doesn't have anything to do with Donald Judd, although, that's fine. It's a good T-shirt. This I liked a lot. I would have loved to get closer to it. I think these were sort of ceramic buttons, I think, presented.
Yes.
On these in these little square coffers, and in a very, very pleasing kind of anti-grid arrangement.
So this is an interesting case in point that I wanted to ask you about, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but this artist recently relocated to Houston from Washington, D.C. And I'm wondering if you recognize the work or the artist.
I don't, although I could maybe think of a couple of people, but
okay.
Unless it's is it an older artist, very advanced career artist?
Very experienced, very popular. Yes, yeah. Lots of traction.
Yeah,
lots of traction.
Yeah, I think I might have an idea about that. Thanks.
Okay.
How are we doing? Are we halfway through, or? you know? I just don't want to bore people because it's been an hour and 20 minutes. No, it's been a little over an hour, I guess.
And we are in alphabetical order of the artist's first name.
Okay.
And this is Joe Aker.
So what's the letter? J? Okay. Okay. I should maybe go a little faster.
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. I like this construction a lot. The use of found, pieces of furniture, taking a chair, a rocking chair, wicker, whatever, totally reconceiving it, and with a little maybe Louise Nevelson feeling in it. This I found powerful, small sculpture, no doubt. Some found and forged objects reminded me of the Melvin Edwards Lynch fragments, sense of violence in the work.
Just so you know, this is Joe Hayden, who is the exhibition chairman for VAA right now.
Okay.
So
hey, Joe.
Now it's revealed.
Okay. Yeah, I like this a lot. I couldn't read the Latin under there. Maybe not important, but there is a sense of illustration about this, almost like this could be a character in a story. So I think that worked well with the text. And this painting, very skillfully done figure painting, but that's never enough, right? That's never enough. I mean, we can learn that in school, but then to develop this theme of the two women of apparently of different races and so different kinds of hair, but the hair joining, and they look, a little bit interested, but maybe apprehensive, which was nice, a nice complication.
Here's another two figures that are interacting with each other that you're responding to.
Yes.
This is very enjoyable, getting to know, your preferences.
Well, I'm getting a free psychoanalysis from you, or aesthetic analysis. I thought this was very well done. A little bit of a Hockney feeling there with that pool. And nice, simple graphic work. And that sense of, balance and what's going to happen next. That's a great moment, right, for that kind of diving. This was one of my favorite photographs. Those droplets of water, towards the bottom of the chains holding the swing and along the bottom of the swing. And so that goes along with this, obviously misty, foggy feeling, and the change in focus, the framing. And, these days it has some dark connotations, I think, when we think about trees and hanging, swinging. It's not hitting us over with it, but I think it might be there.
And it has the Dr. Harry Cooper approved elements of nest and limited palette.
It does.
Right?
Yeah, so another work I would like to see in person, but it's a photograph that gives us an idea of this very spontaneous abstraction with some nice collage elements. And for me, this is about light, and there are bursts of light, and they really, it's dramatic in a good way. Yeah, so another one of the, I guess, you know, you could call it photorealist. I don't know where that term exactly ends, because this, there's a simplification to it, but it would seem to be photo based, just based on some of the ways the shadows are working and the tonalities. And I thought it was well done, and there was interest here in the foreground, figure, background. Lots to think about, whether it's the carpet, which you know, suggests one culture, or the background, which suggests another culture, and more the dress itself, and the book. You know, just I detect a lot of different references that I can't figure out. And another in the photorealist vein. And, you know, just looking at it now, I did not notice the reflection of another car in the door before. I noticed some of the other reflections, but that's a really nice element. And I like the cropping, so that, you know, we don't get the whole car, but we can really concentrate on some of these effects of coloring and reflection. This is really puzzling to me. This was a photograph, it must be, right?
It is.
Yeah. And yet, how is the ship floating in the air like that?
And it's a large scale. It's like 72 inches high, I think.
Yeah.
So huge print.
Yeah. So there's something remarkable about that, and it really grabbed me. And then cosmic, nice bit of language there. And it's, you know, I guess it's a carrier. It's an Air Force fighter. What do you call it anyway? I should know, you know, people in Texas probably know this kind of thing much better, because you have those ports down there. But I liked it. Yeah, these little flowers, I guess, that seem to be ceramic, but I can't remember. But I like them. They just have a naive quality, and just enjoying these materials and colors. And they're all different. They're all kind of different, and kind of squashed in a fun way. So this photograph, as I recall,
Yes.
I liked a lot. Wow. It's very strange. The washcloth and the wig. And, you know, one could imagine some dark things going on there. I mean, or not, you know, and why would someone need that wig? But a lot of tension between those two forms, and the way the shadows just touch. Just thought it was very, very well done.
And another nest and limited palette photograph. Yep.
Bingo, you figured me out. But I also like things like this, which is, I like the use of materials here. It looks like crayon, possibly. And
it is colored pencil. The black is colored pencil also.
Okay.
So you see the edge of the paper. So the line, because I've seen this in person, and you want to see this in person. So yeah, she's very controlled.
Yeah, and I like the way it's not trying to, you know, be that realistic, but it's still it delivers the effect of those crazy neon signs, which I think have got to be invented. But if this place exists, I would like to see it.
And it is invented.
Okay.
Yeah, frankly, I can't say enough about this artist, but
yeah. Also, yeah, those light fixtures are interesting too. Okay.
So there we go.
Yeah, so this painting, we're up close to a pretty small painting here, I think. And it doesn't have a sort of art school feel to it. It feels more like this is just, you know, what the painter has developed and wanted to do. So there's a muddiness to it, which really works, I think, the way the colors, you know, sort of creates this overall texture, and then the fire in the middle is the contrast. There's coolness. It's very cool and muddy on the outside and very hot on the inside. Yeah, I'm not sure what city this was. I should probably know, or maybe it's invented, but
it is Houston.
It's Houston. Okay. I just really liked it seems like the work of possibly an excellent graphic designer. Not to put down the work at all, but it had those qualities of just a memorable image, very cleverly created out of some elements of maps and some text and other things.
And if you could see this in person, she actually uses sentences, words in full sentences to make the compositions.
Okay. Another photograph that I liked a lot. You know, we've seen obviously lots of photographs like this for many years that basically have an almost ethnographic feeling, documenting, in this case, African tribal women, I think. But I like the point of view. We're almost below them. They're on this ridge, the different ways they're carrying things. Just, you know, a nice study of three figures in different kinds of motion. I like this a lot. It's very controlled. It's rhythmic. It's all over. It's the paint is wet, and paint is mixed on the brush in a lot of cases. And yeah, I guess you know, I'd like to see more of this kind of work. You know, where would the artist take this, I guess, would be my question.
Well, we can connect you by email if necessary.
Okay. And I like this figure a lot, which seemed to be a ceramic, I think, if I recall, figure with some applied paint and glazing.
It is.
Yeah, and has a feeling of some maybe traditional Chinese figure, but the gaze is very direct, and you know, it doesn't have any, there's no hints of any particular culture to the figure. So it just sort of bringing it into the present in a very nice way.
And this is representing Florence. This is a Florentine artist, actually.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I just admired the skill of this sculpture, all the textures and the rendering, and an unusual subject. There have been animal sculptors, for centuries, but not sure I've seen this particular lizard before. And I like the way it's clinging to that rock, and the way the rock contrasts with the rock is the base, but it's part of the sculpture in a good way. I think it's a photograph.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. This is one of the really interesting tests is, is it a photograph? And again, kind of like the speeding car, this one way or another, the photographer has dematerialized this, what looks like a watchtower possibly, or something like that. So there's some ominous associations to it, and sort of commenting on the digital world, maybe in a way too, and the loss of information.
Michael is one of 8 artists from which you selected 2 submissions for the exhibition.
Yeah, and here more of a water tower maybe. I just thought that sometimes you just want to see a couple of works together. A pair can be tell you a lot about the artist. Yeah.
And here's another artist you chose too.
Okay. Again, I think in these cases, it seemed like, it's part of a series. So you almost want to see more work. And this, I try to take photos like this, but they never come out this well. I think it's the scale is wonderful. I'm not sure what Henning, I see Free TV. I don't know what Henning is. That's interesting. Motel Henning? I don't know.
Sure.
In the desert. We're in the desert. Yeah. Here, I think the color is great. Red and blue, but then you've got the hints of yellow and green in the along the road. And the birds. See the birds on top of the sign there? I just noticed that. Above the T. Yeah. I think there are a couple of birds there. This is a ceramic, I think.
Yes.
Which has a wonderful organic feeling, almost of some kind of toadstool that's that's growing in front of our eyes. Very lovely, delicate handling of the materials and the use of the white paint or glaze. Really nice.
And yet another limited palette nest.
Oh my God.
Right? Isn't it?
You're right. I liked this. This painting. I like this painting. Is it a painting?
Yeah.
I think it's a painting. Yeah. Probably based on a photograph, of, I guess, looking down through ripples into a fish tank or a pond, and taking that great impressionist idea of reflections on water and just kind of tearing it up so that we almost lose the forms in a very nice way. Okay, another screen filler, and I just enjoyed all the different patterns. I think there's something very decorative about it, and for high modernism, that would have been a bad thing, and it's great to embrace that and to go with it.
Now, I'm sorry, you said high modernism?
High modernism, meaning just like the kind of Clement Greenberg sort of the critics who felt that everything everything had to have tension and seriousness, and flat patterning, especially of a pretty kind, was minor and was decoration, and that was bad. And so, but it's great that you're not even really aware of that as an artist yourself, because that was so limiting. And a lot of great artists, you know, I think of a lot of artists here, Klimt, Hundertwasser, who just embraced this kind of patterning decoration. Yeah, I like this. Again, it's not a great photograph, as Matt and I were mentioning beforehand, but it intrigued me as an image, and materially too, with those crimps in the center of the canvas, and I like the black dry brush marks in particular. And this, I just like the idea of sort of painting out almost everything, it looks like, and just leaving these slivers of whatever it is, an underlayer, almost looks photographic. And you end up just with this kind of delicate rhythm going on. There were not a lot of watercolors, and watercolors can sometimes get very tight, you know, people who are, you know, doing landscape in watercolor, and it's a great tradition that doesn't speak to me that much, and this did, because it's taking that into a more abstract place, I think, but still using a lot of traditional techniques of, you know, wet on wet and calligraphic mark. Then that grid back there, and which has some gold paint in it, is nice. Yeah, I like this, the spirit of this portrait of AOC, right? The Congresswoman, who is known for her, like, her energy, the hoop earrings, the great smile, and you didn't erase the artist's name here. You forgot to do that, Matt. But I don't know the artist.
Okay, good.
But I thought it was a solid portrait of a dynamic figure. Very impressive sculptor here. He submitted several works in this vein, where there's a figure seems to be emerging or breaking apart, and you know, I had some issues with it, I would say, maybe because it's going for a certain spirituality, and the way the hair is just covering the nipples struck me as a little bit maybe prudish, or I don't know. But I could not argue with the technique was amazing. And very different kind of figurative sculpture here that I also responded to. More of a caricature, and letting the materials sort of show more. the holes are interesting. I'm not sure. It almost suggests a mask, and I guess it is not in the round. So yeah, some things to think about. The texturing of the base too. Okay, here we go again with pattern and decoration. And you know, there was a whole movement, 70s, called pattern and decoration. And you know, I think it really opened things up, and this feels like in that tradition of just extravagant, exuberant exploration of all kinds of pattern and psychedelic pattern even. Yeah, this I believe is a tapestry, right?
Hooked fabric, yes.
Hooked fabric. And so very unusual for this show. And then the subject, to try to capture this, looks like Ophelia almost, you know, floating in the water. To try to capture that very liquid subject in this medium, I thought was a real achievement.
Yeah, this artist's work is fantastic to see in person, because that's almost, well, maybe half an inch thick. So you talk about the tactility of some other pieces. Yeah. This is in that category, should you see it in person.
Yeah. This is a painting, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And looks photo based, but I think it for me, the stark background and the worried expression on the bride's face, it's like you're not the wedding portrait you necessarily want. There's a darkness to it, which I responded to.
Interesting. Back to emotional content.
Wow. Very, very different work here. I like the, very direct drawing. I like these multiple contours. Almost looks like a blind contour drawing, maybe done several times in different colored pencil. And the effect is this jittery, very jittery figure, but we really can understand the figure. You know, we get a sense of what the figure looks like. And yes, there's a nest of hair there. So just so you don't mention it, I thought I would mention it. So this is a sculpture that consists of a basket, I guess you'd call it, which I believe was made from denim, on top of this constructed wooden base. And I like this photograph too. I like the setting, against the poured concrete with the window, and probably pretty smallish work, and just that balance and simple kind of juxtaposition of a couple of elements. Controlled palette. I like this. This was very unusual, and I can't remember if it was made out of straws that are then covered in fabric, I think. And it feels, it's just such a complicated structure. It feels like one of those, like a crab pot or a jellyfish or something that's in something else that, you could get caught in, kind of a trap. So this painting, again, like a couple other paintings, there's just a lot of different elements going on at once, which I liked, and different cultural elements too, which I won't try to enumerate, but but because I probably get some of them wrong. I like this a lot, this weaving of these strips of paper through what might be hair, I'm not sure. You know, I think weaving is becoming really more and more important as artists are, you know, exploring other materials and some traditionally sort of overlooked materials or coded feminine materials, and just bringing them into the museum, into the exhibition space.
Is that a comment about the intersection of arts and crafts again?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of work that, you know, in another day would have been segregated as craft, you know, take that to the Renwick or take it to a craft museum or something. Yeah. And that just doesn't work anymore. There's no point in it.
I want to take that out and highlight that. Totally agree.
Okay. Another one of our realistic painters, you know, probably photo based again, but a lot of good paint handling and you know, a tough theme of a street person, but we see it every day. So, and there's a lot to see in it, and what this person has collected and the colors they have chosen, that in a way that person made their own sculpture out of what's in the cart. This was very haunting image. I think it's photographic.
Yes.
Yeah. Of a sort of, I gave the photograph of a sort of washed out photograph of an maybe eroded marble sculpture. And I have no idea what the story is behind this, but it's very haunting. And the way it just bleeds into the background and, you know, goes away. Yeah, I like this a lot. It had some familiar references in a way. I thought of Brancusi, his birds, you know, on different kinds of bases. But there's also something much more, well, Brancusi was interested in folk culture himself, but this seems to have a kind of folk quality to some of it, some of the decoration, some of that weaving of, I guess it's a sort of ceramic item at the top that has a woven structure.
It is all ceramic, yes. Mm-hmm.
Back to reflections. And this is a photograph, I guess. Am I right about that?
I don't recall.
Okay. I think it is, or else a very, very beautiful rendering of a photograph where, yeah, there's the reflections, and then there's this sort of, all of this looks like kind of digital storm of white, you know, white vertical marks, which is really interesting. Just great energy. It's like a drawing, really. I like this a lot. This George Washington collage made out, I think probably made exclusively of $1 bills. And take out my $1 bill here. Look at that. Yeah.
It's a match.
It's a match, right? Anyway, I think that's amazing that somebody could do that with a bunch of these. It didn't probably cost them too much money, maybe $20. I like this very simple, fairly small, I think, painting, looks like poster paint, nothing fancy at all about it. And I like I have no idea what it seems like maybe we're looking at something, but just great shapes. And that for me, what makes this is the outlining, which is that kind of wet yellow going into the reddish orange. And then very oppy contrast between the orange and blue. Complementary color is going to give you that optical buzz. Yeah, wow. I'm trying to remember what this was, but I think it's a paper relief, possibly.
Cut it is, relief. Yeah. It's a wall-mounted relief.
Yeah.
Very deep.
And you know, I'm not to what extent we're seeing reflected light or actually depicted reflection, or I think it's probably reflected light as the thing undulates. But I liked the very delicate cutting and the you know, the looking through and the curling. This I would, you know, another painting in the realism vein, but not photo realist for me. I think it has more of a sense of kind of simplified observation from life, and maybe some this is just a great motif. All those, I'm sure it's a familiar one down where you are, and very direct painting, a little bit, David Bates comes to mind, you know, who I think is a Texas painter. Here, I think we're dealing with a somewhat blurry photograph, but this was a very nice little sculptural like relief construction, I think, in 3 dimensions with that kind of chopstick element, holding things up, and some illusionistic painting and the shadows. Got to see it in person, no doubt, but just a lot of sort of history, a lot of history of abstraction in there, I think, of constructivism, Russian constructivism.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like this very simple painting of a disaster that has happened. The pot has fallen. I guess the cat is not responsible because the cat's on the other side of the window, but big broad brush strokes. I like that. And some nice layering, that blue sky over a kind of reddish ground. This seemed like a nice loose painting.
And there is no more.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop sharing, and it's back to you and I. So that was fun. So on my notes here, yeah, so I'm going to totally put you on the spot. So I've got nests, obviously, as a repeated motif. Urbanality, we saw quite a bit of. Shaped substrates, ruins, just a couple of those. Photorealism, pattern and decoration is well represented, but that's completely in contrast to simplicity. So sometimes you like pattern and decoration, and sometimes you like simplicity. And I think we can all relate to that, right? This is just your eye.
Right. Plus, I wasn't just going to go with the things that were the easiest for me to like. That wouldn't be
a great statement.
You know, that's not what jurying is about. I think we've got to try to, you know, get outside ourselves a little bit, get outside our comfort zone.
No, that's just very, very happy to hear that.
Yeah. But I love your analysis of some of the themes that I was not at all aware of. In fact, I've done a Philip Guston catalog, which the essay starts off with a knot that he drew that I found in his sketchbooks. You know, Stuart Davis also, I've worked on a lot of knots in his work, loves tangles. Yeah, who knows? I'll have to unknot that one.
Interesting. Well, that's what good art should do for us. You know, should question us, make us question others, but yet bring us together.
Yeah.
So this has just been fantastic. Bring this to a close. This will be.
I don't know if anybody was able to sit through all that, but if you did, thank you.
Yeah, it is a lot to take in, certainly. But for those of us interested in the visual arts, this has been a gift. It's been a treat. On behalf of the board and the members of Visual Arts Alliance, thank you so much for giving us this gift of your time. And with that, we will sign off and hope to see you in person someday.
Thank you, Matt. It was my pleasure, and congrats to everybody who was involved in a great show.
Outstanding. Very good. Bye now.
Okay, take care.